Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of 15 Minutes. We appreciate you joining us. Today, my guest is a member of the King County Superior Court Bench, the Honorable Judith Ramseyer. Your Honor, thank you for joining us today.
I'm happy to be here.
We know you're busy. We appreciate you coming up here and talking a little bit about what you do as a Superior Court judge. You were born in Philadelphia.
I was.
Attended Seattle University School of Law, clerked for a federal district court judge, William Dwyer. Been elected to the Superior Court bench since 2012. When did you first decide that you wanted to make law your endeavor in life?
You know, it's really interesting. I had worked since graduation from college in the juvenile justice field. I have a master's degree in adolescent counseling, and I'd worked with adolescents and families for 15 years. When I went to law school, I was working at the Department of Juvenile Rehabilitation in Olympia, and I went to law school simply thinking I was making myself more marketable in a pretty male-dominated field at the time.
And you worked in that area before you went to law school, is that correct?
Yes, right.
Okay.
I went to law school nights, and I wasn't intending to change careers. But as it turned out, I loved studying the law. I really enjoyed law school. I did well, and I was given some opportunities. And at that point, it really wasn't until my second year in law school that I decided I'm going to leave what I'd been doing and make a real transition into the law. And I am so happy I did it.
You know, after law school, you had a pretty successful private career, worked in some complex litigation, some class action work. At what point did you realize, I'm going to leave my private practice, put on the robe, and become a judge? What point in your life, and what made you decide that that was going to be your decision?
Well, it took a long time. Actually, when I graduated from law school and became a law clerk for a federal judge, that was fascinating. I absolutely loved it. And he was very encouraging of me to pursue the bench. But then I got out into practice, and I liked it, and I had a child, and things just happened, and I got to a point in my life where I thought the ship had kind of sailed on becoming a judge. But I met a couple of people, also judges, not even from here, who were encouraging and said they didn't think that the ship had sailed and I might reconsider it, and I very kind of spontaneously, or at least without a lot of deliberation and planning, threw my hat in the ring and was successful in my election.
Private practice, especially when you're working on your own, takes a lot of hours, a lot of time, especially when you're working in complex areas. Was the time that you were spending on your practice, did it just get to you at some point where you were just spending too much time at work, and maybe that's what led to the shift and what you wanted to do?
Not really. I loved being a lawyer, and my move to the bench was not trying to get away from my practice in any way. I really loved it. But I'd had multiple jobs over my career in public service. I always was drawn to public service. And so I was really moving toward the opportunity to contribute to the community in a different way than I did as a private lawyer.
You know, when you're on the bench, I know that you hear a lot of legal arguments on a daily basis, but you also see people in various stages of life, both positive and negative. True?
Absolutely.
Can that be difficult sometimes?
It can be very difficult. The job of a judge is a hard and demanding job, and in terms of workload, if people are thinking they're going to leave private practice and have a lighter workload becoming a Superior Court judge, you are sorely mistaken. It's a very demanding job.
In your position, what would you say the most time-consuming part of being a Superior Court judge is?
Well, I'm in court most of the time, and so everything else I do is outside of those hours. And so court hours are roughly 9 to 4 with breaks in the middle. There are frequently noon meetings, after-work meetings, evening engagement where you want to be part of the legal community. So I don't know how to really carve that out. It is my role in the courtroom, which is very time-consuming, but it's all the additional work that has to be done around the edges of that make it a real demand on your time.
Judge, you are currently serving as Chief Juvenile Court Judge for King County. In that role, what is it that you do?
I administer court and juvenile services at the Youth Service Center over on 12th and Alder. I preside over several calendars, the at-risk youth and truancy calendars, as well as our drug court calendar. But I also administer the operations there.
You know, juveniles who commit crimes obviously need to be dealt with in some manner. Sometimes there's rehabilitation, treatment, a diversion, sometimes incarceration. How is the way that the court has dealt with juvenile offenders, young offenders, how has that changed over the last 10, 20 years or so?
Well, it really has evolved. And one of the things that I was so excited about in coming to the juvenile court is that we're in a period of transition right now, and there is so much energy nationally, within the state, and certainly within King County to move toward more and more reform. And so the pendulum is swinging from what was a heavily accountability and holding young people accountable for their conduct toward restorative services, rehabilitation, making sure that the community can be safe while at the same time looking at the individual needs of the young person in front of us and trying to build in responses to their behavior that not only holds them accountable, but also, and perhaps even more importantly, helps them become more successful young adults.
In that approach, what is it that the department needs more of? More resources, better qualified people, more funding?
Yes.
You jumped on that one, more funding.
Yeah. No, all of it. You know, you always need more, but we're very lucky actually here in King County because we have a community that I think really shares the overarching goal of trying to make young people and families whole by using their contact with our system as a way of intervening in crises in their life or helping educate them.
Sorry, I was going to say, is there more intervention at an earlier stage of the case?
That's right, and trying to move it farther upstream so that we can keep kids out of the juvenile system. So we are lucky in that we have a lot of partners in the community, in the county, in the court, and I think one of the things that we can do more effectively and that we're working on doing more effectively is to work collaboratively, you know, to kind of break down those individual silos in which we all operate so that we're really exponentially improving the delivery to the community. And, you know, we're working on that. We keep moving in the right direction.
Good. Judge, you know, when a young offender is accused of a crime, I know there are many factors that play into how that person is treated, whether or not they're charged with the crime or some sort of diversion program. What are some of the factors that a prosecutor looks at in how they deal with a young offender? Their age, the nature of the offense, I would imagine?
I've never been a prosecutor, so maybe that question is better directed to a prosecutor, but certainly the nature of the offense, the seriousness of the offense, the young person's history for criminal behavior, age, all of those factors play into it. And when we as judges are looking at a young person who's been actually charged with a crime, the variables that go into all of our decision making are community safety, accountability, and the needs of the individual. And so you're always weighing those factors.
Understood. Let me ask you about the King County Youth Services Center. The King County Youth Services Center is what, and what role does it play in the criminal justice system?
Well, it's where juvenile offender matters are handled. Here in King County, it contains a youth detention center, courtrooms, offices for probation, and schools, and the prosecuting attorney's office, other resources. As you know, the youth service center that we currently have is very old and very decrepit, and we're in the process of constructing a new and much more well-equipped and responsive children and family justice center that we're very excited about.
Where is the current center located at here?
At 12th and Alder.
And again, just briefly, what services are offered there? You mentioned courtrooms.
Well, it's where we hold
resources.
court. and there's a in-center school for young people who are juvenile justice involved but are not being detained. In the detention center, they also have a school. Probation staff are there, evaluation staff, prosecuting attorneys, interpreters, anyone that helps us deliver the supervision services that we provide for kids, as well as conduct the court hearings that we have on a daily basis.
Judge, as you know, that center has, I think, been around since 1952. Let me read you some words that were used to describe this center by staff. Dark, unfriendly, the water is terrible. The message the building sends is we don't care much. I know you probably agree with all of those, and that's what's motivating you to make these changes. Would you agree with these?
100%.
With this description?
Actually, I was thinking as I was leaving my chambers and my bailiff's office, coming here, I looked up at the ceiling, and numerous ceiling tiles are either hanging at a precarious angle or are stained with water stains, and I wish I'd taken a picture for you.
Well, we can always send some later.
All right, good.
Why has this building fallen in such disrepair? What's been the problem here?
Well, I don't know that I can say with certainty. One, it's old. Two, juvenile issues aren't always on the front burner of the agenda, and so upkeep has not kept up with the heavy use that it gets. It really is a heavily used building.
My understanding is that there's a real shortage of programming space, I think is what you call it.
Everything's too small. Everything's too small.
Now, the voters in 2012 here in King County approved a levy to build a brand new Children and Family Justice Center. I know that's something that many, many people are looking forward to. Tell me again, what are going to be some of the major changes through this levy to the new Children and Family Justice Center? Tell me about that.
Well, we're really excited about it, and we're on track right now to have a staggered use of the building starting in October, but it holds 10 courtrooms with much more space for public participation and attendance at the hearings. Right now, we have maybe 5 chairs that public members can occupy when they come into our courtrooms. It's going to be equipped for decades to come in terms of technology, the wiring, the ability to do video conferencing, lots of conference space, including a large conference room that the public can reserve and use in evenings for public meetings. Probably the centerpiece of the new courthouse is a large resource center where we're going to be able to have our community partners actually occupy space within the courthouse. So if a young person needs, if the family needs referral for housing, or if you need health services, or if you need education, or mental health, or substance abuse counseling, there will be people within this resource center that our navigators can connect them with on the spot, rather than giving a phone number or a website and saying, you go, follow up with these people. Because it just doesn't happen. And so that can all be collected in one place, as well as a child care center, 2 schools. The detention center will be bright and airy and roomy, have a medical center and a garden and a library. And it just improves our ability to demonstrate to the public our care and concern for juveniles and their families, but also to be able to have the space to provide services in one-stop shopping.
So a consolidation of resources and services all under one roof.
Absolutely. It's very exciting.
We just have just a couple of seconds left, but I want to bring up something that I heard. I have a lot of resources in this courthouse, and what I heard about you is that you are an excellent parallel parker.
Well,
is that true?
Andrew, I'm so happy you raised.
You're welcome.
It is true.
Okay.
I am an excellent parallel parker.
How did you become an excellent parallel parker?
Well, innate talent, no doubt, but then practice
Okay.
is always the answer.
Oh, your insurance company must love you. Your Honor, thank you for joining us.
Thank
we really
you.
appreciate you being here. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. Join us again for another edition of 15 Minutes. We'll see you soon.